This time it felt like we covered more ground. Like we were able to walk for quite a while without being accosted again. I wasn't even sure when the trees gave way to cavernous tunnels. My mind was so occupied with the stupid riddles and challenges, and trying to work out what the fairies were plotting. I couldn't help but feel the longer we took to pass each test, the less time we had to rescue Ewan and Spencer. Even though no one had really said there was a time limit. Time. I stopped walking, putting a hand to my lips thoughtfully. Nora? What's wrong? Does anyone have their phone still?
I have mine.
What time is it? He pulled out his phone to check it, and his eyes went really wide.
Whoa, what?
What time is it, Elliot?
It's nearly 3 in the morning.
What? That's impossible. We just got here and it was still really early when we went through the gate.
Oh, she's put on her Fae outfit. There we go. Killing it, girl. Time passes differently here. The only reason your human devices can keep track is because our magic doesn't interact well with your technology. That's what I thought. It makes sense with some of the legends and stories I've read, but I honestly didn't think about it until just now. Good thing I brought my trusty journal along to write all about it. Let's see. I guess I'm looking for time? And not the plant? This one. Faerie is an other realm, meaning that it exists outside normal reality rather than within it. There are many odd things about Faerie, but one of the most dangerous to humans is that time flows in a completely different and inconsistent way. What may feel like a few hours in Faerie can actually be days, months, even years in the real world. There are plenty of stories of people who spend time in Faerie only to return home to find decades have passed in their absence.
This changes things.
Who even knew what was happening in the real world while we were down here? I hadn't given much thought to what would happen when Mom and Dad got home to find Spencer and I gone and not answering our phones. Now we'd been missing for hours. And not just the two of us. We'd dragged others into this as well. We'll have to try to move faster. I hadn't really given much thought to how long this rescue would take, but I definitely hadn't considered something like time passing more quickly on the outside. And even if I wanted us to move faster, we were kind of at the mercy of the Fae here. I didn't know if they were listening in on our conversations or if it was just coincidence. We'd barely gone 20 feet before we staggered to a stop as our path was cut off again. There was the stupid wall of shadows, and another stupid fairy waltzing out of it like a freaking comic book villain. Whoa! Well, damn. That is a look. Big fan. Shelley this time? I glanced back at her. She was watching the fairy a little timidly. They were really going to just cycle through all my friends, weren't they?
I cannot let you by. You must answer my question to continue on. I'm so sorry.
I raised an eyebrow at its seeming uncertainty. It seemed less like it was reading from a book of villain cliches than the others. Actually, its entire demeanor was different. Maybe this one could be reasoned with? Can't you just let us go through? Is there really a need for this riddle nonsense? The fairy shook its head furiously, pale eyes darting around.
I'm sorry. I can't do that. You've trespassed into our territory. We can't just let you wander around.
I trespassed because you took my brother away.
I'm sorry, but this is the way it has to be.
I bit back an angry response to that. Arguing was definitely not going to get us anywhere. Fine, just ask it. She glanced over her shoulder again and leaned closer as she dropped her voice to a whisper.
I tried to pick an easy one.
Huh? Was she implying she was trying to help us? She really was different from the others. It was almost funny. It seemed almost fitting that the fairy doing her very best to mimic a slightly creepy Shelley was also, well, sort of nice. Maybe they aren't all horrible. Good. The fairy took a deep breath and appeared to be doing her very best to look intimidating. It was weirdly adorable.
Double, double, toil and trouble. What goes in this jar for powerful trouble?
Oh my goodness, that's from Macbeth. Shelley's doppelganger was right. I knew this one. It was a line from Macbeth. A pretty famous one. She'd definitely chosen something easy. But before I could answer, Shelley stepped forward, setting a hand on my arm. I know this one.
And so do I. And, I mean...
She glanced at the fairy in front of us.
I can't help but feel this riddle is meant specifically for me. So let me answer it.
Meant for her? Because the fairy was mimicking her? But...
Nora. I hate to admit it, but she's right on this one.
But what if they take you too? What if... My voice broke and I took a minute to compose myself. I didn't want to show weakness, didn't want them to see this was getting to me. What if they don't want to let you go after this?
I trust that you won't stop trying to get us back. So please, just... let me do this.
I reluctantly let her step around me and up to her pseudo-lookalike.
Fillet of a fenny snake, in the cauldron boil and bake. Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog. Adder's fork and blind worm's sting, lizard's leg and howlet's wing.
The fairy looked surprisingly relieved.
You've gotten it right, but... I'm sorry for this. I have to ask you to stay with me.
I knew it.
I know.
Human child. Know that there are some among us who hope to see you succeed this time.
That is really nice to know. Thank you. Why? I thought you all... She smiled slightly and reached for me. I flinched away, but she gently caught my chin and tucked my hair behind my ear.
We've watched you all your life, you know. Whether here, whether there. We watched. It would be strange if there wasn't even one of us who hadn't come to care. And besides, that young Fae is his son. Many of us don't wish to see bad things happen to him.
She's talking about Ewan and Logan. Interesting. So Logan still had supporters here too. Also good to know. Well, thanks, I guess.
I will keep your friends safe. You have my promise.
I opened my mouth to argue further, but Shelley shook her head.
I'll be okay, Nora. Just focus on the task ahead.
How could I do that when they were keeping my friends captive? It was Allie that pulled me away. I cast one last regretful look at Shelley, who stood beside her fairy clone. The stakes were higher than ever now. I feel like those two will really hit it off, though. I hope. But I had to go on. Even so. Biting my lip, I mulled over what had just happened. I felt like we were doing... okay. But we hadn't rescued anyone yet. The opposite. We'd lost friends along the way so far. But we were passing through the riddles without issue. We hadn't failed yet, so there was hope. As long as we got to the end of this soon. I glanced back at Brenna, but she was just following along behind us. Brenna, isn't there something we can do to get the upper hand here? How do you expect to do that? We're in their territory. We have to abide by their rules. Does abiding by their rules mean continuing to play their stupid games and hoping we make it through okay? If that's what you think it means. What is that?
Nora, I think we should remember we're probably being watched at all times here. We shouldn't fight amongst ourselves.
Fine. Following their rules. Even if it meant giving up my friends? No. I had to figure out some way to turn the tables on them and outsmart them. But how? At least we knew now that some of the fairies were rooting for us. I mean, it would have been nice if they just stepped up and put a stop to this whole ludicrous mess. But fairies and their obsessions with rules and riddles, I guess it wouldn't be in their nature anyway. Or maybe there was some law preventing it. Who even knew? For now, I was going to have to just focus on what lay ahead. I just wish there was some sign of civilization or something, not just endless trees followed by endless cavern. Well, not totally endless. There were those weird white trees ahead, but I didn't know we'd find anything in there either. Heck, I didn't even know if it was real. Or any of the rest of it either. This whole thing could just be fairy glamour, couldn't it?
This place is super weird, isn't it?
I'll say.
I was thinking how those trees up ahead, they don't seem to be getting any closer. Did you notice that?
Come to think of it.
Yeah, now that you mention it. But I was just sitting here wondering how much of this is even real. I mean, you know, it's not like fairies aren't known for creating whatever kind of illusions they want.
That's true. With fairy magic, we could be walking through a swamp full of snakes and never know.
Well, that's comforting. Then again, I'd hope that if something like that was the case, Brenna would let us know. I wouldn't be doing you any favors if I revealed too much about this place. You should know that by now. I guess that's true enough. This time it felt like we hadn't gone far at all before there was an eerie hissing giggle.
What was that?
First guess says it's another annoying fairy with a stupid riddle for us. And there was the shadow wall thing, knitting together in front of us and blocking the way. It was getting to be more annoying than frightening, to be totally honest. Can't we just get all the remaining riddles out of the way at once? Because the stop and go madness is going to make me have a psychotic episode in a minute. I'm just saying. Oh boy, you're really in shadow and trying to like... Oh, it is Elliot. It's Elliot Moose. I can see it in the face. Another fairy began to materialize from the shadows, speaking in a hollow voice.
You cannot pass this route without a fee.
Yes, yes, we know the drill. You must answer me these questions 3. What's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow and all that? Can you spare us the theatrics and get on with it? Ha ha! These fairy versions of everybody are doing things. I'm just saying. Big fan of the designs. The fairy looked affronted as I snapped at it. It glared at me with a familiar pale face, and I wasn't even surprised anymore. Elliot. Of course. Well, weird fairy Elliot anyway. Whoa, it's me! Did you really not think you'd see yourself at some point? Oh, that's great.
Whoa, it's me.
Or a bad copy, anyway.
You mean I don't look like that? Because...
I would totally do me right now. Freaking Elliot. I swear. Oh, I'm dying. Oh, hold on, I need a second. Oh. Elliot, why are you so adorkably lovable? There was a strange hitch in his voice, and I glanced back at him. He was staring with wide eyes, a hint of pink in his usually pale cheeks.
Elliot, come on, you look way better than that.
He's like, oh, what? What? Really? Better than that? Because, I mean, I think he looks pretty, you know, hot. I love this. This is the best. Oh, the doppelganger's like, you right. You know, I kind of dig it. Oh no, leaving you two alone together though is a trouble. Oh. Okay, I'm fine. We can. Whew, is it warm in here? We can do this.
This farm is somewhat nicer than I expected, all things considered.
He held his arms out, examining them carefully, while Elliot sort of weirdly eyed up everything else. Allie and I shared a look. Can you just ask the question already? Oh my god!
And Elliot, stop ogling yourself. You're creeping me out.
Sorry. I just wasn't expecting that. He rubbed the back of his neck, awkwardly looking away. Good grief. Charlie Brown.
I won't make it easy for you if you're going to be rude, little changeling.
I am going to seriously scream if they keep calling me that.
I doubt you'd have made it easy anyway. You don't exactly seem like you're on our side.
Very well. Answer this one, if you can. With magic sprung from Hecate's herbs, sealed in quills of guiseling birds, weaving fate and giving life, healing sickness or bringing strife, on grass our moose swabs gently blow, and are used to staunch crimson flow. Gossamer hung on Faerie loom, what creature lurks within the gloom?
Some of that sounds familiar. Can't remember where it's from, though. Moose swabs. Isn't that talking about a spider web? So it would be a spider? Which would make sense, because Elliot turns into a spider. Moose swabs? Was that a thing? I shot Allie a worried glance. She shrugged, clearly as confused as I was. Because... moose swabs. Wasn't sure what a geisling was, either. Weaving fate. Hecate's herbs. That was so confusing. Elliot, however, looked thoughtful, for once. I shot him a quick glance. His brows were knit together, and he looked like he was thinking about it pretty hard. Any ideas? I don't know. I just was thinking. Gossamer is made of cobwebs, right? I have no idea what the heck a moose swab is, but the other stuff is about, you know, weaving and stuff. Yeah. That means... spiders! Elliot! He said it before I could get the word out, then shot me an apologetic smile. Sorry, but if anyone is staying behind this time, I think it should be me. Oh, I'm sure you do, Elliot. We all know you just want to get your smooch on with yourself. I don't trust this for a second. The fake Elliot lifted an eyebrow slightly, seeming somewhat put out by that answer. What, was it right?
You may pass this way, but this one has to stay.
He snagged Elliot's arm and pulled him closer. Uh-huh. Brenna had stayed largely silent through most of the riddles, but when the fairy grabbed Elliot, she bristled slightly. Elliot's doppelganger smiled at her slightly.
Watch yourself, exile. Just because we haven't said anything about your presence here yet, it doesn't mean we haven't noticed you.
Brenna hissed slightly. If you've noticed me, I hope that means you haven't forgotten who I am.
Of course not. As if we'd so easily forget someone brazen enough to waltz into our halls with our missing changeling in tow. Just waiting for her to fail so you can claim credit for having delivered her back to us.
I whirled around, shooting Brenna an accusatory glare. Is that true? Brenna gave me a long, calculating look, then just shrugged. If you fail, but I've helped you come this far, I have no intentions of making you fail. Just observing to see if you do. You're horrible. A human term that has nothing to do with me. You're the one that got yourself into this. You can't blame me for sitting back and watching to see how it goes. I really do not like fairies. Then it would be wise for you to not fail. Because if you do, I can assure you'll be staying here for a long, long time.
If the two of you are finished arguing...
Wait one damn second!
Hey, it's okay. We knew this would happen. No need to try to argue about it. I'm fine with staying, okay? Nora, just go on without me. Trust me, I'm going to be fine.
He cupped his hand around his mouth and whispered something. I barely caught it, but I was pretty sure he said he was going to try to find Danny. Okay. I didn't want to leave him behind. Damn it. What other choice did I have? We're definitely getting you out of here too.
I know.
The shadow wall evaporated and Allie reluctantly pushed me through. For just a moment, I heard the fairy's voice rustle back toward us, but when I looked back, Elliot and the fairy were already gone.
Did you catch what he just said?
I'm pretty sure he said he wanted to see if we'd make it on time, or if we'd be too late. Does that mean we have a time limit? Because no one said anything about that.
Nora? You might want to take a look at this.
She held up her phone and I balked when I saw how much time had passed. Seriously? I gripped her hand and stared down at the screen. It's Saturday night already! Oh man. Mom and Dad were probably freaking the heck out right about now. Well, hopefully Grandpa's in hospital and they're gone. That'd be good timing.
I'm betting that time limit is the end of Samhain.
Because all the gates will close.
Not all of them, but most of them. And definitely the one we came through.
Oh man, I can't believe we didn't think about that. So these challenges... all this mess, it's just a delay tactic, isn't it?
Looks like it.
I turned on Brenna. I can't believe you didn't warn us about this. She just shrugged. You were the one who rushed in without a plan, just like you did before. Urge to kill rising. Amazing how some people never change. I bit my lip and took a deep breath, fighting that urge to just smack her. I guess there's nothing to be done about it now. All we can do is try our best to hurry.
I don't think we've particularly gone slowly.
Well, let's not start then. Come on. It felt like we walked for a long time, just silently plodding forward. The echo of our footsteps gradually closed in.